This will be 1.5 since the original video I was doing was going to be like 20 odd minutes. And I don't want a 20 odd minute video for a base. But with that said, I do want to show where I'm actually at with building Shirley. So right here I made the main base and the secondary base and the speaker box that actually houses the speakers. Though I'll most likely be rebuilding this box because if I go to attach this thing right now with hot glue, I won't be able to attach it properly because the spray paint will easily detach from the the hot glue will easily detach from the surface because the surface is spray painted. So right now I just have it held on by magnets, but again I'm most likely going to be rebuilding this and just hot gluing it directly to the actual base. Mainly because the lower section of Shirley, which is going to be her legs, are going to be physically connected to the main base here, and I really can't have this be removable and whatnot for that simple fact. So that was an oversight on my end, but at the very least I can show you these speakers I'm using. These are the two back channel speakers for my DED surround sound system. These speakers still fully work, but the actual components that drive these, they died about a few years back. So I salvaged the speakers and I stored them wherever I needed, and I'm currently using two for my secondary system here, and I'm using these two to provide good audio for Shirley. And to also help get that better audio, I also got myself a nice HD player, which I'll talk about towards the end of this video. And I also did the audiophile sin of getting beats. Sorry, audiophiles. But with that said, I want to go over the bass. Now I stated that this bass is going to be RC because I'm tired of constantly having to pick up my figures like Rim here to move them around. And ever since I made Congo RC based and whatnot, I decided if I can to make any next figure I build RC based so I don't have to pick them up anymore. So first thing I did was make the actual main base for Shirley to stand on. This is the base that Shirley is going to always be connected to. So this part here has to be nice and robust to actually withstand all her weight. So to make sure this thing can actually withstand all her weight, I just made 3 box bars and just hot glued them to the base right here. And this is more than enough to actually keep everything nice and sturdy. Granted, yet I've got to build Shirley, but I've been working with foam board long enough to get a general idea of what I can and cannot do. And if all else fails, since she actually decides to start warping this section here, I can easily add some reinforcements down here to brace it and whatnot. But for right now, I'm fairly certain this will do just fine, especially considering when I actually go to place it on the actual carpet, it's still relatively robust. And mainly when it comes to the actual how the weight is going to be distributed, most of the weight is actually really going to be distributed on the center line right here. Because that's how I'm planning on placing Shirley. Is right on the center line, and it'll just be braced right here and then just some bracing right here. Again, I might need to add some more bracing, but for right now this hopefully will work. But I'll have to wait and see because again I don't have Shirley. Or I don't have the model's not ready to be built yet. And of course, just to allow Shirley to be RC based, I made a secondary sub stand or secondary sub base. This little guy right here is going to house the RC components to hopefully get her to where she can move around. Now, unfortunately, I've yet to figure out where in the world the second RC New Bride track Doom buggy thing is. I got 2 of these. This is my first one. I got the second one, which you can see in like a previous video of when I was first figuring out the RC setup for Congo, and I was using that inside her base in conjunction with another New Bride car to move her around. That was prior to me finding the RC rock crawler I'm using now to lug Congo around. But This right here this right here is capable of moving Congo around with the help of that RRC car. Now, Shirley isn't going to be as heavy as Congo, so I'm fairly certain I can get by with just using 2 of these. And how I have them planned is I'm going to go right in the middle with these, and I'm just going to have it more or less like this. I don't know how high it's going to be off the ground or whatnot, but I'm going to have one here and then one here on the other side. And of course, it's going to be in half to where half is outside and half is inside, providing a good enough stable platform to where hopefully she doesn't fall over. And for the front, I'm just going to have 2 caster wheels sticking out the back or sticking out of the front to allow it to actually turn and whatnot. Now, my initial idea was to actually build a whole custom RC steering column for this thing, but if I did that, the whole thing, it would be like turning a freaking school bus at an anime convention. And since these things are RC tracked vehicles, to turn these things, all you gotta do is just shut down one motor and it'll just turn, or just reverse one motor as the other one reverse one motor as the other one's going forward, and it'll also cause it to turn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hopefully figure out some way to where I can do hobby grade, to where I can use the current transmitter I got, to where I don't know how to properly explain it, but I'm hoping to figure out some way to where I can physically control the actual speed of all of the motors in tandem, because I'm going to have 2 motors hooked up to each other, and I'm going to have the other 2 hooked up to each other. Again, I still have to figure out how that's going to work, but that time will come when I actually get the 2 replacement cars. But yeah, that gives you a relatively good idea of how I have the base set up and how hopefully everything's going to go together when it comes to the RC components. When it comes to actually building Shirley, it's more or less going to be exactly the same like all the other figures I've built in the past. I just gotta be a bit more wary of how everything's going to go, because I have no idea how stable she's going to be because of the actual feeding position that she has, which again is going to be something like this to an extent. Because like I said, of all my previous builds, their feet are firmly planted on the ground. And this is the most unique pose I'm going to be working with. So I am very, very concerned of how she's actually going to properly center and whatnot. Mainly because of all this and her hair. I have a very bad feeling that she's going to constantly want to tip over like this. So I got to figure out some type of solution to resolve that issue. And I really don't want to add some weird bracing here, but I might be forced to if she actually decides to start falling over like this. So my current solution, or my current theory to resolve this issue, or at least remedy it to an extent, is to do this. Now this is a very, very rough idea of how to get it to work, but this right here is a filler piece. The shape you can see that's marked with a pencil and whatnot. So that's basically the side, and this is kind of how I have it set up to where it's actually going to be bracing, and it's going to be basically like a triangle to where the load is actually forced onto the actual surface that the former, or whatever this piece is going to be called, is actually placed on. That way, so hopefully it'll be enough to remedy, or at least buffer, the actual force of her constantly wanting to keel over this way. Which again is one of the very few things I'm very concerned about with this build, is how is she going to keel over? Because again, this is going to be my most unique build ever, or next to Congo and whatnot. But again, with Congo, I really didn't have to worry about it, because again, she's sitting. With Shirley, she's standing, and all that, and a lot of weight is to one side of her, and she's gonna keel over. And I hope to God I can somehow remedy this issue. But again, that time will come when Shirley is actually getting built. Hopefully sometime this week the model will be complete, but I'm going off what he said. So I think what I'll do next, or what I'll end this video on, is the HD player like I was talking about. So give me a second. So I'll quickly talk about the player. This is not a review of it or anything, it's just me talking about it over just me using it and whatnot. So I've had this sucker for about a day now. I got this for my birthday, even though my birthday's a few weeks off. This is the FiO M6. It's an HD audio player. It also has HD Bluetooth and whatnot. So if I find some HD receiver, I can easily get some really good audio to come out from these speakers. Something that I really can't do with my Beats. But these things don't sound that bad. But if you're an audiophile, you're cringing really badly. But with that said, this is an HD audio player. But this is also an HD audio player that costs $130 that runs Android. Now, this is a very heavily customized version of Android 7. And FiO just recently, I don't know how recently though, but they allowed it to where you can now sideload apps. I sideloaded VLC, Nova Launcher, because the original launcher this thing came with was utter freaking garbage, and CPU-Z to see what this thing is for specs. And I even decided to load up Minecraft onto here. And believe it or not, I was able to play Minecraft on this HD player with my freaking 360 with my Xbox One controller. Give me a second, gotta scratch my nose. And the main reason why I decided to load up Minecraft on this was to just see what this thing can do. It runs Minecraft, just not that good. And here's why. It's a pretty low-end processor. But it's nice that ZPC actually shows everything. And my bet is the real reason why Minecraft didn't run that hot on here is because it only has a half a gig of RAM. And I'm fairly certain it's running out of RAM pretty freaking fast. Now, even though I went and made it so I can sideload apps, including Nova Launcher, I've yet to figure out how to get the Android navigation buttons to show up. Maybe I can do a post on FiO's site and ask them to actually allow the navigation buttons back. Mainly because the FiO M9 and whatnot, the players are up a few more than this one. They have their navigation buttons, so I'm stuck with the stupid swipe gestures and whatnot. But at the very least, I can use this thing to watch more risque anime if I want to watch it on a nice smaller screen. And believe it or not, anime doesn't look half bad on this thing. If it decides to go into widescreen, that is. Give me a second. There it goes. Now, of course, you're not going to hear audio because this thing doesn't have built-in audio. But I can play full anime on this thing without a problem. But like I said, everything's gesture-based now, so navigating is a bit of a pain in the ass, nonetheless. But for an HD player that's $130, I'm quite pleased with it, even though I've only had it for a day. But with that said, I'm most likely going to be using this thing at my local conventions because now I'll be able to actually produce decent audio from my figures and whatnot. That's one of the very few things I try to take pride on in these figures if I decide to do audio for them, is to have the audio actually sound halfway decent and not sound like it's coming from a freaking Pringle can. And with this, and me actually using actual speakers instead of just custom building, I should hopefully have decent audio coming out of Shirley's setup than all the other ones. Granted, I think Congo's sound is pretty decent. So with that said, I'll end this video here before it hits 15 minutes.